Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to week number 3 of 2022 and it's time for another weekly wrap up. As usual, it's not surprising we have a few little businessy things to talk about. Number one, I just got a new phone this week, so I'm hoping editing and everything will go smoothly as it has before, but I'm not 100% sure, so we'll have to see how it goes. So I hope this video came out okay. But yeah, during the week last week, my phone just started the screen just started kind of like rippling whenever I do stuff. And I was like, oh shit, because I do everything with my phone. I mean, I know we all do everything with our phone, but everything to do with my channel and, you know, my like side hustle that is YouTube is connected to my phone. So if my phone goes kaput, I'm fucked. So thankfully I was good last week, and because of the holiday weekend, I had all the videos you saw last week were already pre-filmed and ready to go. So I wasn't like in a super hurry, but I did have to get a phone, and Samsung is mean and they don't make their phones as great as they used to. I'm just saying, the phone I had before this, the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus, had 512 gigabytes of internal memory. I was able to get one of those. And like, they don't make phones like that in the new generations. And I'm sure it has to do with the fact that that phone lasted me 2.5 years, and they don't want a phone to last that long because then you don't upgrade. So I'm back to having 128, and it means I had to carefully choose which of my backed up things that I wanted to keep. And obviously I have a lot of stuff in the cloud, but there is also a lot of things that, like, when you're filming, you don't need to keep those things, or I've taken a million selfies to make sure I get the right picture for the thumbnail, and so there's a lot of things you can just get rid of. And it ends up being a trip down memory lane because I have stuff in my Verizon cloud going back to like 2016, I think, and there are some things back there that we just, very interesting. But anyway, so yeah, so pardon me if there's any weird changes with this. Something else that I want to share, and if you follow me on Instagram, you already saw, I did do a merch update. Now, YouTube still has my new merch under review because it's weird. Teespring is okay with the designs I put up, but YouTube has to decide if they like follow its policies or whatever. So they're not all like shown in my merch, because my merch shows down below. But if you follow the link to Teespring, that's always in my bio, you can see, and I'll show you some of the designs because I'm pretty proud of them. We have some Book Refuge ones, which I'm really proud of these. I'm so excited for my samples to come in. But you can order them now. Some people have already ordered. And in fact, I have a sale going through Monday, which will be 10% off. You can use the code TBR2022 to get 10% off of your order. We also have Rake Appreciation Society designs. I was very excited to upgrade those. I love what we have. Book club this last week was amazing. We had so many people join, and I just love them. And then, I'm not saying exactly when this is happening, but it will be soon. I have some new Mafia romance readathon designs going up, including one that I just love so much that says, I think it says, Dons and bosses and mafiosos and kingpins and crime lords, and I'm just really proud of that one. So that's all like mafia related stuff. And then there's one that has the names of mafia authors that I love, and I will be making maybe a couple varying designs of that. So let me know your favorite mafia authors. If I didn't put them on a shirt, I would be happy to do some multiple designs that have those. But that readathon will be coming up soonish in the next couple months, and so I just wanted to kind of have the merch up there, as well as there's some that aren't specifically for the readathon, so you can buy those if you're interested. So those are some of the redesigns I have, so make sure you check out the link down below, check out that merch. Merch is one of those things that it's just very exciting to me whenever someone's wearing something with your name on it or something you created. It's this weird kind of thrill that you get. But I'm super proud of these ones. I was proud of the ones I made the first time because they were the first designs I ever did, but they definitely were not the best work that I could do. And I figured out how to use Adobe and which size which size images made them look the best, and I think these are going to be amazing. So, okay, enough of the business up front. We have, I believe, 12 books to talk about, and it was a pretty great week. like, it was kind of mediocre in the beginning, and then, like, we had some great reads, so I'm very excited to do that. As usual now, I do have my book rec form where I keep everything here, so I may be looking down. I forgot to bring my, like, actually, hold on. I can just pull my coffee table closer and put that up there. There we go. Because then I can at least look this way instead. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first couple books I have to talk about were still books that I read during the Romance Takeover Readathon, which was last weekend. You can find my vlog for that up here. I ended up reading 6 books for this, which I know me reading 6 books in a weekend, like, it isn't revolutionary, okay? Like, I do read quite a few books. We know this. That's why you're here. However, usually when I'm running a readathon, you know, like when I'm a host for it and I'm posting, like, usually I get pretty caught up in what everyone else is doing, and I don't always have the time to devote to my own reading. So I was very happy that I was able to. Sorry, I still need coffee for today. So I was very happy that I was able to get through not only my entire TBR, which that is crazy, because usually I make a TBR and then I'm like, fuck it, I want to read these things or whatever. I read all the books on my TBR plus one, so that was great. So the first one that I finished for this week was The Gargoyle Prince by Rebecca F. Kenney. And this is one that I literally saw, We Last With a Book talked about it on Twitter. And I was like, this sounds amazing. So yeah, this is a gargoyle. It's a steampunk, like, monster slash, like, sci-fi, you know, well, you know what steampunk is. It's an alternate history France is when it's set. And we have a princess whose name is Noemi. And she has someone try to kill her in the beginning, and it actually kills her bodyguard, who is her friend. She has a female bodyguard, and she gets killed. And so her brother, who is the prince, it's actually like their parents are alive, but their parents are kind of like checked out. So their children are kind of running everything. And it's a bit interesting that the parents are checked out because we're kind of in the middle of a war that's happening, and it's not the best time for parents to check out. So her brother says, I am going to assign you your next bodyguard, or else you're never leaving the castle because we can't risk you getting hurt. So they assign her a bodyguard who is a gargoyle, and he's called Gideon. And the gargoyles, they have all these different kinds of, like, I can't pronounce the names, but they do the things that can bring stone to life and put the soul of someone into a gargoyle. And he's able to be her bodyguard. And so this is very much like an enemies to lovers as well in the beginning, but it's a bodyguard romance and a monster romance because she's strangely attracted to him, but she also thinks that he's like a demon, basically. She thinks gargoyles are unnatural. She doesn't understand why her brothers assigned one to her. And yeah, but it becomes clear as they are spending time together that there are memories of his past and who he was before he was this gargoyle. And, you know, the title of the book may be giving some of that away. Just want to say, you know, not to spoil it, but it is called The Gargoyle Prince. So maybe that's there for you. What is cool about this series that I discovered, though, is that this is a series, let's see if I wrote a note. Nope, I think it's called, like, Timeless Warriors or something like that, this series by Rebecca Kenney. And it's actually about, like, different forgotten heroes or warriors or whatever it's called. And so there's one about Jack Frost, and there's some that take place in, like, Neverland. And so I'm really interested in those ones as well. So I want to read more of Rebecca Kenney's works for sure. But yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and it was a 3 on the spice rating. Oh, there was some good monstery stuff, but there also was a lot of, like, it was one of those where once we started having the sexy time, stuff became, like, fade to black a little bit. But, you know, he does have a stone cock, so that's a thing. That is a thing. So, and then there is a trigger warning for grief in this one because she was very close with her bodyguard and she was a friend, and there's a lot of dealing with that grief in this book. So that's kind of the trigger warning for this one. Then the next one I read was Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues. And yep, this was one I read this one all in one sitting and in the daytime. One of the prompts on the bingo board was to read a book all in one sitting. And this was one I'd been wanting to read since everyone was reading it around like October or whatever, like for Halloween. But I was also warned to like read it during the daytime because it would be really creepy. Now, here's the thing. I didn't find this book to be that creepy. So it has to do with this kind of like sleep demon, and there's sleep paralysis. Our heroine goes through a trauma in the beginning. So there is a trigger warning for she is almost assaulted. Someone breaks into her home. It's very scary. It's very traumatizing. She has to like hide in the bathroom and she's terrified. And so this causes her to have problems sleeping. And so in the beginning of the book, she has friends and family that are trying to help her sleep and she just can't do it. And then we have this sleep demon whose name is Archeron. And usually what his job is that when someone is having nightmares, he like shows up and he feeds off the nightmare. And the nightmares are like what feeds him. And I think what helps fuel the place that he's from. I don't know if he just takes it for himself or he's taking for others. I can't quite remember. This book was like 160 pages, and part of my thing is that I had thought that this was, oh my gosh, there's always something. I thought that this was like an 80-page novella, and it was longer than that. It was, 160 pages, so there was a lot of world building done in this, because I believe Arm Virtues has said that this is the first book that's going to be part of like a series where we're going to come back to this place and everything. And so I think there was a lot of work done, and it's one of those where I wish it had either been shorter and we had just focused on the characters, or that it had been longer and been a full book, because I kind of was getting not enough of the one thing and not enough of the other thing, and I just wish it kind of would have made up its mind. So we'll see what this other books in the series that he is going to be writing and how we'll feel about those. But I did enjoy it quite a bit, because this is something that it will seem non-consensual. And so this is a situation of consensual non-consent, because the sleep demon, he ends up kind of feeling bad for her that she's having these horrible nightmares. And he decides that he wants to make these dreams pleasurable for her so that she will want to sleep, so that she will get healthy again. So he kind of makes it so that the dream world is more pleasurable for her than the real world is. And it's very interesting. I'll say that. So this book, yes, it does have a lot of trigger warnings. There's trauma and PTSD. There's also tons of kinks. There's the sleep paralysis, there's consensual non-consent, and there is creature sex. This guy has a tail and he has a tongue. And there definitely is a scene where he uses all three of them at once, and it's very sexy. There's lots of dirty talk, all these things. So any reasons not to recommend this would be like, if you don't really like kinky sex, if you don't like weird creature sex, you're probably not going to like this. There's also a lot of intense feelings, okay, because of what we're working through. So it was dark. I just think that from what people had said, they had made it sound like horrifying, and maybe to some people it would be, but just because of some of the things I've read, like it wasn't as terrifying for me, and like it was fun. Like it was very sexy, very kinky. There was some naughty stuff happening, so I just didn't, it wasn't as bad for me. So I gave this 4 stars. I did give this a 4.5 on the spice rating though. It probably could have been a 5, but maybe not quite because it wasn't full length. So this one was very spicy. It definitely lives up to that. That is the thing. That is the thing. Okay, next I read Ruthless King by Faith Summers and Khardine Gray. This was one that I read that it was one I was supposed to read in 2021 but didn't get to it. This is also number 6 in a Mafia series. And yeah, it's a whole thing. It's one where like I ended up getting it for free. There was a whole situation. If you watch my reading blog, you'll know why I got it. And it was one that I've been wanting to read because it has a silver fox. And I was under the impression that this was a like arranged marriage situation. And it's not. It's a nanny romance. There is this mafia boss who has a niece who is like 2 years old, 1 year old. It's actually his daughter. We won't get into that fully, but he is looking for a nanny for his niece and someone who can also be his mistress. So that is in the contract. This isn't a like slow build up to, oh, I'm having feelings for my nanny. No, this woman, who by the way is a spy, like a rival a mafia person. Her father owes him money. They force her into this situation where she needs to apply to be this nanny and then also try to get information from him. And so because he's looking for a nanny / mistress, someone who during the day can take care of his niece and at night see to his physical needs. Oh, by the way, she's going to be paid $500,000 a year, so it's not too much of a hardship. He is a sexy silver fox man who's like 18 years older than her. She's 24 and he is like 42. And I kind of liked that, actually, that it was kind of a business transaction. I don't know. I like sort of escort romances sometimes. And this one was such an interesting situation because the way he is with her, it's very matter of fact. He's like, yeah, I'm looking for someone to see to my needs, who will let me do what I want. But, like, you're going to be treated well here. You just need to know, like, what you're in for and everything. So she's being forced into this situation, but she's not being forced into it by him. You know, he thinks that this is all, like, good to go. Like, she knows what she's getting into. She knows he's part of the mafia. She knows she needs to keep it a secret. He just doesn't know that she's a spy. So it was very interesting, and I did really enjoy it. The spot where it got a little difficult for me was that everything just, like, wrapped up really easy in the end. Like, she's holding the secret from him, and the way he reacts when he finds out, I was kind of just like, okay, because we kept getting further and further into the book and the secret wasn't getting out yet. And so I'm like, how's this gonna work? I'm confused, but I don't know. It was also just enjoyable. It was very sexy. He was very sexy with her, the way he was falling for her. He didn't really put up too much of a fight falling for her, and their sex was like, it was good. So I ended up giving it 4 stars and 3.5 chili peppers for it. There are trigger warnings. I found this very interesting. Our heroine is actually a recovering drug addict. When she had some issues in the past, she actually did quite a few drugs. And so, yeah, she's a recovering drug addict, which I thought was, I don't want to say cool. I thought that was a interesting character trait to give her, that was something she struggled with in the past. Because I feel like when we see drug addiction, it's usually not a woman who has one. So I was interested in that. And then also trigger warnings for death of a parent, because a lot of the issues where, like, the reason her dad's in debt and the reason she's in this position is because her mother has passed away and there are some debts that are owed because of this. So then I read The Lady Temps The Air by Harper St. George. This book comes out in February. I want to say it's like the 2nd or 3rd week in February. This will be the 3rd book in the Gilded Age Heiresses. And this one is about Max Crenshaw, which, if you've read the first 2 books in this series, which, just a reminder, like, I gave the first one 4 stars, but it was like a 3.5. I gave the second one 5 stars, but it was kind of a 4.5 for me. And this one is about Max, who is the oldest brother. He's the heir, granted by the title of this, and he actually is American, and his parents are shitheads and have been in the last 2 books. They've been causing problems for their daughters, making their lives painful. And Max, well, now his dad almost died, and Max has had to float across the ocean, sail across the ocean to get back to England, because that's where his parents have been, and make sure his dad's okay. And then his dad, like, who has pushed both of his daughters, a lot of the reasons for things that have happened in the last 2 books was this parent forcing his kids into marriages. And now the dad is coming for Max. And Max is like, literally, you've gotten my sister married off. Why are you trying to make me get married? And his dad threatens one of the sisters. Like, I don't want to give too many details away, but I'm trying to get to the point of where we're going with this. His dad is like, well, I want to make sure that you're going to give me an heir before I die. And so I'm going to give you till the end of the year to be married and or engaged to someone, or else I'm going to ruin things for your sister, because I know you love your sister. And you'll be very upset if you fuck up her life. And I'm just like, sir, why are you doing this to us? Why are you doing this to us? Oh. And Max, who is like, I am not going to be pushed around by my dad. I've been trying everything I can to make sure that my family members can have the love that they want, because he's a fucking amazing big brother. I just want to put that out there. I love Max, everybody. He is on my book boyfriends list. Wild applause. I love him so much because, he's just such a good person. Like, I love him. This character is amazing. And then we have Helena, who is a widow, who has a cause. And right away, I felt myself tensing just a little bit because even from the same author, I've seen causes be overdone and not be the best thing. However, Helena and the way that she is fighting for her cause, which is the London home for young women, which is going to be kind of a home that helps women who are, fallen women, let's just say, whatever, women who've had children out of wedlock, have been waylaid by society. It helps them to get jobs, helps them to get, skills that they can then use and take care of their families. And she has a plan to take care of them, and she's been doing well with this. But now society is deciding that she's being tainted by being around these women. And she's starting to lose donors for her project, which is to refurbish this old factory to have apartments and homes for the women and children, and she's losing funding. And Max and Helena actually met in the previous book when they were helping Violet with her drama in that one, and they had a crazy attraction. But Max and her, they both were like, he's gonna go back to America, I need to keep my reputation good because of these reasons. And so Max hears about her predicament, and he's like, I've got the perfect thing, a fake engagement. Let's have a fake engagement, and then when go back to America, we can say the space was too much for us and we can break up. But my influence and my business connections will help make sure you can make this happen. So they begin this fake courtship that's going to lead to a fake engagement. But they both are super aware that they are attracted to each other and that they could very easily make this a real thing. And in fact, what I loved about the story is that from the jump, Helena's kind of like, why can't you marry someone for real? Why? I know you don't want to do it because your dad's pushing you into it, but you realize that's hypocritical, right? You want your sisters to have what they want. And yet, why was it okay for them to be pressured into something and not you? And Max is like, it wasn't okay for them to be pressured into it. I literally dropped everything I was doing in America every time my father was doing that to come here. But they have this back and forth where Helena's like, I realize you think you're doing what's best, but you're also still think it doesn't apply to you. Why can't this, anyway, I'm following off the thing. I don't want to give away all the conversations, but I loved this book so much because they're both so honest with each other for so many things. Their chemistry, they're being drawn together, and they're like, this is bad because we're going to end this, and you, I need to be here to be with the work I'm doing, and you need to be in America to deal with what's happening over there, and it's never going to work. And the more time they spend together, the more that they fall. And I have to say, the way that this all played out, my heart was in my throat the whole time. I just loved these characters so much, and even their things that were frustrating to me, I understood them. There was never a point where I was like, you're taking your beliefs too far, or you're getting in your own way. I fully understood both of their point of views, and I think that's so hard for an author. And maybe it won't be that way for everyone else because we all have our unique point of views, and for me it just really worked what theirs were. So I adored this. The thing that I will say, and I know this may, for some people this will kind of give some things away, but the big trigger warning for this one is infertility. And we have a heroine who's a widow, and we have a man who is the heir to something. So if you read historicals, you can probably see what the third act conflict might be in this book, but I promise the way that it worked out was beautiful. I gave this book 5 stars. It was almost a 6-star book. It wasn't quite at a 6-star for me, but it was 5, and I truly love this book. I can't wait for everyone to get their hands on it. I think this series has only gotten better. I gave this 2.5 on the spice rating. There is not a lot of sexy time in this, but Max is so swoony. He's so swoony that I was okay with that. Really, it was fine. And then there is going to be more books in this series. And in this book, you find out who that next one is about, and I'm ready for it. Which will be interesting because we have finished the Crenshaw siblings. So the next Gilded Age heiress will not be about a Crenshaw. So we'll see how that goes. I talked way too long about this book. I'm sorry, but I loved it so much. The next book that I read was Arctic Heat, and this was the last one that I read for the readathon. I squeaked this one in. I listened to this on Libby. I read this out of order. This is book 3 in, I don't remember the series name. I forgot the series name, but this is by Annabeth Albert. I have really liked the books by Annabeth Albert that I have read so far. And so I decided to go through Libby and see which books my library had that were hers. Cause she does, I believe all gay romance. I think they're all gay or LGBTQ romance. And this one is a grumpy sunshine, ranger and a volunteer. So we have our ranger who is Quinn. Is it Quinn or Quill? Quinn? Wow, I think I wrote his name wrong down in this. I'll have to look up what his name is because I don't think it was Quinn. I think it was a weird name. Is it Quill instead of Quinn? I don't know. Anyway, we have our ranger who he is a closeted gay man who has been a ranger for the last 20 years up in Alaska. And then we have Owen, who is our other hero, and he is a cancer survivor. I think it was prostate cancer that he had. He's only like 34, so it's not like he's a lot older. But these are both characters over 30, so that's something cool. It's 34, and I think that Quinn is like 41, 42, so they're both older main characters, which is always great. I love that. And Owen, after surviving cancer, he is just like going through a bucket list, baby. And one of them was, there's a lot of things in Alaska that he wanted to hit. So he signs up for this program where he's going to be like a volunteer, like caretaker for this, like these ski trails and resorts and stuff at a state park up there. And he ends up getting assigned to Quinn, and they end up being together. And Quinn doesn't like this because he's attracted to Owen, and he doesn't want anyone to know that he's attracted to men because he's really been hurt before. There definitely are trigger warnings for it. I wouldn't call it like domestic abuse, but he definitely had like a gaslighting partner. Like, I don't know any other way to say it, because one of his only like long-term relationships, he was a secret to this person, and like he was told a lot of his sexual desires and the way he wanted things was like wrong. And so Owen and him, they have a uphill to go. But this is Grumpy Sunshine, Forced Proximity. They are yeah, that's really what it is. They spend the winter together, and you know, slowly there are feelings that are happening, but Owen, he's okay for the time being, but he doesn't want to be with someone who's going to keep him a secret forever, because that's not how he lives his life. He's not going to live his life in the closet. And also, is he going to want to stay up in the wilderness forever where, you know, the other guy's life is? So I gave this 4 stars. I actually only gave this 2 on a spice rating though, because this was definitely one of like, there was 1 or 2 sex scenes and then it was fade to black. But the way that Annabeth Albert does stuff, it's so sweet. Like, this is the 3rd book of hers where I've really read, which is a lot about like exploring things and that there's no right way to have sex with a partner. And especially when it's a same-sex couple, like it's about you both feeling appreciated and cared for, and it doesn't have to be, there doesn't have to be a goal, you know? And I love that. It's one of the reasons I keep reading her books, even though they're not my like normal spiciest level. I still just like, they make my heart so happy. And to me, that's more important than a lot of other stuff. Then I read the arc for Twisted Hate, which comes out on the 27th. This is book 3 in the Twisted series by Anna Huang. I was so excited to get to read this arc. Like, I was hyped to read this arc, okay? This one is an enemies to lovers, best friend's brother, workplace as well. This is an interracial couple. Look at this beautiful Josh on the cover of this. And our heroine, Jules, is a redheaded menace, as he would call her. And he is in the last year of his residency, and she is going to be a lawyer, and they end up kind of working at the same like clinic where he does like a couple of days a week there, I think, and then she's looking at like medical law there or whatever. They end up deciding to have like a truce while they are both at work there. They will try to get along. Their hate to love kind of comes from the fact that Jules has always been like a troublemaker in Josh's eyes specifically. And whenever Josh's sister Ava would get into trouble, it would always be, you know, it was always Jules who got her into trouble. And so he's a protective older brother. And so he's kind of always seen Jules as like, oh my gosh, she's the one that gets my sister into trouble. And Jules has just kind of been like, okay, that's me. And then they also do really enjoy their like hate banter together. So they are very like cruel to each other in some ways, but it's also like they wouldn't know what to do if they didn't have that. So when things spoil over into hate fucking, there is a lot of like dynamic play and kinky play. There is breath play in this one, and it's like the good kind, like the really good kind that I love, where someone knows what they're doing. Degradation for sure in this, and just very spicy. Like Josh is they together are as you would assume for Anna Huang, because she's had that in all of her books. So the spicy times are hot. There's also some really sweet caretaking. Like something I love is whenever a period is in a book, like the menstrual kind, not a sentence structural kind, and a hero can be very like caring during it. I love that a lot, and there's a scene of that in here where Josh is taking care of her during her period, and they're not even like friends yet really, and I loved that so much. So yeah, I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it's a 4 on the spice scale. It's very spicy. And the only reason this wasn't a 5-star for me, and the only reason I'm going to like bring this part up, because once the book was over and done with, like I was okay with this situation. But I do think that for some people reading this book, when they hit this certain part, it could be a deal breaker for them, or it could like really significantly like lower the book for them. So that's why I want to bring it up, because for me, I was willing to keep reading the book because I like Anna Huang and I figured there would be a really good grovel. But the like third act conflict in this, which involves a secret, because there is some trigger warnings for this. There is previous parental abuse, there's death of a parent, and there is stalking, not by the hero. Well, okay, he kind of stalks her sometimes, but he's not the one I mean there. Jules has an actual stalker from her past. And so the third act conflict of this has to do with that. And the way that Josh reacts and the thing that he does when he finds out was almost unforgivable to me. And I say almost because, again, I did end up enjoying this book at the end. I thought he had a really good grovel at this. I feel like Anna Huang does grovels very good. But the thing for this is that I don't see Anna Huang's books as dark romance. I've called them like beginner's dark romance or light dark romance, because the first book had elements of dark romance in it with a psychopathic hero and, you know, weird shady business practice things. But the second book definitely wasn't a dark romance. It was a royalty bodyguard romance. But then this one has elements again. And for me, it's very difficult because in a contemporary romance that is like truly contemporary with like no dark elements at all, the thing that Josh does, I would never forgive it. I would be like, don't ever talk to that man again. It's over, done, boom. But the way that Anna Huang writes with these, you know, spicier content, some darker elements, what he does, I would accept it if it was in a dark romance. But I'm in this weird place where what he did was a dark romance hero thing, in my opinion. But this is a contemporary book. So anyway, you'll have to decide for yourself, but I just want to like put it out there that when you get to the darkest moment of this book and they have their like big like breakup thing, keep reading. There's a really good grovel. I believe the grovel. I do think that Jules could have made him suffer longer, because I personally, and again, this isn't real life, it's fiction, but I personally, if someone did that to me, I would never forgive them. I would feel too betrayed. It would be over forever. So, but I gave this 4.5 stars, and it was 4 on the spice rating, and most of you probably won't be bothered about it the same way that I was, but I'm putting it out there because I'm a book reviewer, and that's what I do. Okay, that's what I do. You can see my review on Goodreads if you want a little more detail, but I still keep it non-spoiler. So anyway, okay. Moving on. Then, because holy shit, I'm talking too long today. I was feeling it. I read Entreat Me by Grace Draven, because my friend Crystal said, and also because my friend Avery from Ava's Romance, I just forgot her new name of her channel, but because they told me to, and I wish I had the book with me. It's literally on the way to my house, but I film these in the morning, so I can't wait for UPS to get here with it. But I gave this 6 stars, so this is a 6-star book, and I just love it because it's January 22nd, and I already have 3 6-star books this year, and I regret nothing. I regret nothing. They are all 6-star books to me. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which heavily relies on, like, the French version of the tale, and there definitely are kicks to the Disney one as well, because we all love that. But this was fascinating. This was only my second Grace Draven, and if you haven't seen my Pharaoh Feb announcement, I'm going to be interviewing Grace Draven for Pharaoh Feb this year, and I've only read one of her books. I always meant to read more of her books, and then I just never got around to it. So, I mean, you'll notice I was reading more of her books this week, and this was one that Crystal read for the readathon, and she told me that it was fantastic, and I was like, okay. So I got the audiobook for it, and this one, this will be very hard for me to say their names, but I did write it down. The heroine is Louvain, and she has a younger sister who is falling in love with someone named Gavin, who he is actually the son of our hero, whose name is Ballard. And they have a cursed castle in this kind of like, it's not a parallel universe, but it's like a faraway place that we use magic to get there. I don't know. It's hard to explain all the setup of this. And both Ballard and Gavin are cursed. And there's a prophecy about how they will break the curse. And I don't want to tell you who cursed them or what happened, but it's fascinating. So it's a father and a son who are both cursed until they can break it. And the young sister who Cinia, I think her name is Cinia, she, like, Gavin is falling in love with her, so he brings her to spend, like, the winter at his palace to court her and get her to fall in love with him. And Louvain, who is the older sister, she's a widow. Her father has been causing problems for them, and Ballard and Gavin, like, they promise that they will pay off the father's debt if Cinia can stay for the winter. And Louvain's like, sure, but I'm coming too, because you can't keep my sister here without me, because I'm going to make sure no shenanigans happen. You're going to court my sister. You're not going to sleep with her and steal her virginity. You're going to court her, and you're going to marry her, or we're leaving. And so Louvain comes, and Louvain is amazing, okay? She is even level amazing, okay? I threw it down. I said, this book is at a Heart of Blood and Ashes level for me, okay? It's a different kind of story that we're telling. But our heroine, she is so smart, she's brave, she's bold. She sees Ballard, who is slowly turning into this beast, and at certain times of the month, he actually fully is this beast, and they have to, like, lock him in the basement so he doesn't kill everybody. And she's just like, something weird's going on here. And they have this amazing chemistry. This book was spicy in a way I was not expecting. And, like, Louvain is just like, so you look a little weird. Like, I don't care. I'm a widow. I'm cool to experiment. There are some steamy scenes in this book, and I just loved how it all played out. There are some people who rated this that it was just like, okay, and I don't know what story they were reading. I'm being honest. This was beautiful. It's long. It's probably Grace Draven's longest book that I've seen. She doesn't usually write books this long from what I'm seeing so far. This one's over 400. It's like 460 pages. The audiobook was very long. Actually, the audiobook for this was on Anyplay. There's only two of her books on Anyplay, and this is one of them. And I just could not stop reading it. I couldn't put it down. I was so enthralled with it. And I absolutely loved it. And it definitely has a lot of nods, like I said, to both the Disney movie and the like French version of it. But if you're a Beauty and the Beast retelling lover, like that's not going to be a deterrent for you. Like you're going to enjoy yourself. So I gave this 6 stars. I can't wait till I get my physical copy, and I can't wait till I get to like read this book again because I loved it so much. It made me so happy. Then I read Eidolon, which is the second book in the Wraith King series by Grace Draven. This one comes after Radiance. This one still focuses on Brishan and Ildiko. Because then, like, I'm reading book 3 right now. I'm not done with it, and that one kind of switches focus to someone else. But this one picks up pretty soon after the first one did. Brishan and Ildiko are, you know, just ready to live their lives together. They were friends to lovers in the first one. They're deeply in love with each other. And then something horrible happens at the beginning of the book, which changes all of their plans. They are now thrust up into royalty even more than they were before. And this leads to some serious drama and struggles for the both of them. And this was another one I just couldn't put it down. I loved it so much. I love this couple so much. I gave this 4.5 stars and 2.5 on the spice rating. Oh, Entreat Me was 3.5, by the way. Sorry, I didn't say that. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It was amazing. Then I had a quick little reread. I reread Games We Play by Dana Islay. I gave it 5 stars still. It's a 4 on the spice rating. I know for some people it would automatically be a 5, but it's a novella length book, and there actually isn't as much sex in this book as you think because it's a novella length. I don't really give like novella length ones a 5 star or 5 spice rating because there's just not, it's not fully in there. But this is super kinky. If you don't know, this one is about a gamer who is being interviewed by a reporter, and they end up having like a sex deal for the night, and then end up, you know, deciding they want to keep each other forever. This is the first one in her one night series, and I did buy, I actually have these. Where are they at? Where did I put it? I actually totally forgot that I bought this, but I'm about to do a book haul. So the reason I reread it is I had bought copies of both Games We Play and Secrets We Hunt. I haven't read Secrets We Hunt yet, but I also got the audiobook because I wanted to listen to voiceover Eros read it, and it was pretty good. The quality of the audiobook isn't that great, and I hear that he's going to be like upgrading his systems because he's actually going to narrate a Sophie Lark book, so he needs to upgrade his quality just a little bit. But had a great time. This was 5 stars still. It's super spicy. It's great. It's a good time. Then, man, I should have been talking faster because I read this duet by Sam Mariano that I want to talk about, and it's the Irreparable duet, and the first one is called Irreparable Damage, and the second one's called Irreparable Lives. And this book was a cheating book, and I liked it a lot. I want to recommend this book to you if you liked Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I'm not saying it's going to give you the same level of feels that that book did. It's a little less intense, but the way that like cheating happens in that one is kind of what's happening in this situation, okay? So this situation, we have our heroine, Willow. She is the illegitimate daughter of a mafioso, okay? And she doesn't have anything to do with her dad. He's just kind of, she knows who he is, but she actually has 2 moms, right? Because her physical birth mother is now a lesbian, and she has a partner, and so she has 2 moms. But she gets kidnapped like right after her 18th birthday by people who want to punish her father. And little beknownst to the men who kidnapped her, there is a spy in their organization who is actually a private investigator whose name is Ethan. And he has been charged by a couple of families to find their daughter who has been kidnapped by the same people and is going to be forced into sex slavery. And so he hears about Willow being kidnapped when he's already undercover. And he's like, well, if I can save her too, then I will. But his main focus is this person he was hired to save. But, I mean, he wants to save all of them. He is there because of this specific girl. Now, Willow is giving the men a hard time. Surprise, surprise, who are trying to abuse her. And so they also kind of want to test Ethan, because one of them is a bit suspicious that he might not be with them. And so they tell him that he needs to break Willow in and rape her in front of them. So he can't go in a different room and pretend or fake it. And so he's like, guys, I can't get hard in front of you. I have to go in another, if you want me to rape her, I have to go over here. And they're like, no, she can do it. So they make her blow him until he's hard, and then they make him rape her. And Ethan, the way this is brilliant, I'm telling you, this book is brilliant. I mean, I had some problems with it, but it's brilliant because we're in his point of view when he has to do this. We're not in Willow's point of view, which obviously would have made this terrifying. But we're in Ethan's point of view where he's thinking through everything. He's married. He has 3 children. He cares about doing this job. But he knows that it's very risky, and he's in this situation where he's like, if I don't do this, they'll kill me and probably kill, and someone else is going to rape her anyway. Or I do this and I'm able to rescue everybody. And so he does it. And we're in his point of view, and he hates himself. He hates himself. And very shortly after his plan goes through, he's able to save them. Willow is like, what's happening? And he's like, I know you don't believe me. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I promise you, I'm here to help you. As crazy as that sounds, as strange as this situation is, like, I'm here to help you. And you can tell on me when we're done, but I'm here to help you. So they end up getting rescued, all this stuff. And he, like, the police know about him, that he's undercover there, because he is the one who called them and warned them. So they arrest him in front of everybody to keep his cover. And then he's expecting Willow to have told what he did, and she never does. Because she does understand the situation he was in. But it goes up a level crazier, and this is where I'll stop saying every single thing that happens, because you can get it. Her mothers, they found out that Ethan was undercover there, and they invite him to dinner to thank him for rescuing their daughter. And Ethan is like, this is so fucked. Like, she's gonna have to look at me and, like, look into the eyes of the person who raped her. This is horrible. Like, he is fully aware of how fucked this is, and he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been able to touch his wife. He can barely look at his kids because he has an 8-year-old daughter, and he's like, oh my God, like, I'm a monster. Like, he hates himself for this. And so he goes to this dinner, and Willow is just, you know, fucked up in the head. And when he leaves, she walks him to the car, and he gives her his card, and he's like, I know this is weird, but if you need to talk to somebody who, like, knows what happened, you can call me. And she's like, I'm not gonna need to call you. And he's like, that is okay. You do not. I'm not trying to force my presence on you, but if you want to talk to someone who knows, you can call me. And so this leads to something more. And I don't want to tell you how it happens, but I do want to tell you that me, who cheating is pretty much my #1 pet peeve above anything else, I have read books with cheating that I've liked before, and this is one of them. Because Sam Mariano made me believe what happens between them. Now, I gave both this book and the next one, because they are a duet. They really could have been one book. My full reason why this is 2 books is that I don't think Sam Mariano knew how she wanted to wrap this story up. And I think that's proved by the fact that there was 2 years in between these 2 books, which, whew, that would have been tough, because there was a cliffhanger in the first one. But I gave these both 4 stars. They're 2.5 on the spice rating, probably less than that. These books really aren't so much about the sex that's happening. I'll say that. So, coming from your girl who doesn't ever want to read infidelity in a book, I believed that it happened in that. That doesn't mean I liked it. I wasn't like, oh yeah, cheat on your wife. Like, that's not what I was feeling. But this book made me think about the situation, and I was riveted. Also, at the end of the second book, if you're a fan of the Morelli books, you'll get a little fun thing at the end. So, okay, gotta keep going. We're almost done. So then, finally, a physical book that I own. I read The Serpent King by Elizabeth Hoyt. I read this accidentally. This is actually book 3 in the trilogy. I meant to read The Leopard Prince, but I accidentally brought the Serpent Prince with, and that's what I listened to at work instead of the Leopard Prince. I was stupid. But anyway, this book is about Lucy, who was raised in the country. She lives a quiet life. And then there's Simon, who is a Viscount, and Simon has a revenge bent that he's on because of reasons, and one of these events leads him to be knocked unconscious and like left for dead. And in the beginning, Lucy and her servant stumble upon him and they think he's dead, but they bring him home and they realize he's alive, and so we nurse him back to health. This isn't an amnesia story. He does remember who he is, and he thinks that she's an angel when he wakes up because he thinks he's dead. And so her and her father, who is very much against this man, they nurse him back to health. And yeah. And so then we have to deal with the fact that like they're falling in love with each other, and Simon is still on this revenge hunt for a slight that was done to his family, and he can't give up this revenge, and it may ruin his relationship with Lucy. So I gave this book 4 stars, and it was 2.5 on the spicy scale. There is trigger warnings for suicidal tendencies is the best way I would say, because Simon does not expect to live through this revenge plot that he has going. So I don't know what else to call that but suicidal tendencies, because there are literally times in this book when Lucy is like, do you not care that you're going to leave me? You're going to leave me if you keep doing this. And he just can't like help himself, you know. But I did enjoy this. Elizabeth Hoyt, like this was, it's only a 2.5 on the spicy scale because there's not a lot of spice in this, but like he's a dirty talker when it happens, just saying. And then the last book that I finished is I read River of Shadows last night. I finished River of Shadows by Karina, Halle. This book comes out on the 30th at the latest. She said it may come out earlier. This is a retelling of Death and the Maiden, and it is based mostly in Finnish mythology. And so we have Hannah, who's 24 years old, and she's traveling to Finland because her father has died, and she's the only one who can kind of take care of it. Her mother was divorced from her dad and has never went back to see him at all. And so she goes to see him, and it turns out her dad's a shaman. And he's not actually dead, but he's trapped in the underworld with death. And so one of her father's like apprentice, he is also trying to be a shaman. He is like, Hannah, let me take you there and we'll get your dad back. So she agrees to go to the underworld with this guy to get her dad back. And when she gets there, Death agrees to let her father go and cure him of cancer, because that's what was happening to her father, if she stays with him forever. And she's like, I'll give you anything. I will. And it's funny, she makes a list. She's like, I will come to your bed. I will be your bride. I will, you know, do all these. She lists out all these things she'll do for him. And he kind of just takes it as a checklist of things that he'll do with her. There are a lot of interesting creatures in this book. This is a full, like, fantasy underworld everything. There are unicorns and mermaids and gods and goddesses all around. And Death is... he's interesting. He wears all these like creepy masks to make people scared of him, which is hiding something that I won't tell you what it is. This book was a slow burn. This book is also a cliffhanger. I was seeing some people, when I posted my little blurb of it, people didn't know this was a cliffhanger. This is book 1 in at least a duet. I believe it's only supposed to be a duet. I have a hunch that it'll be a duet that's about Death and the Maiden, and then there'll like be more, because the series is going to be called, I wrote it down. The series is going to be called Underworld Gods. And so the Crown of Crimson, which will be the second one, will come out in the spring. It won't be too long, but I put that as like a warning that it's not done, because some of you I know wouldn't want to read it, because there is a cliffhanger. Like, not just, oh, there's an ending. Like, no, it's a cliffhanger. Like, they are not together yet by the end of the first one. We'll put it that way. Yeah, but this was good. This is a great fantasy one. I definitely will recommend this to people for Pharaoh Feb because the fantasy was very high. The things about it that were a bit frustrating, like I gave this 5 stars. I did. A couple of things that were frustrating though, which I think the reason why is because it's going to be a duet, is there was so much like that Death would just assume things. Like she would say something and she doesn't necessarily mean it. She's just like, and he will like take it as like true or whatever. And so there were some realizations that were finally starting to happen at the end of the first one. And then, yeah, it was a cliffhanger, but I really liked it. So if you want to wait till the second part is out, I totally understand it, but it was good. It was good. So, okay, there we go. I talked too long as normal, so let's wrap this puppy up. But this was week 3. I read some wonderful books. I had a great time with it. I'm so excited. Make sure you check out my announcement video for Pharaoh Feb, because we're going to read fantasy romance in February. There's going to be a lot of authors involved. There's going to be giveaways. There's going to be live shows and reading sprints, and it's going to be so much fun. So make sure you check those out. Thanks so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.